Welcome to our Tuesday coffee talk. We're happy to be back with everybody again this morning after a week off, an interesting week off. So this morning we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on the past couple of days. We got some new guidance out from the state with regard to what's going to happen in the fall with schools. You know, I think just in thinking about these last several months, one of the biggest things, there's so many big things surrounding this pandemic and everything that's going on in this world, is the idea of uncertainty. And so I was really pleased that at least some sort of guidance came out for what's going to happen in the fall, because everybody's been wondering, are we going back? Are we not going back? What is it going to look like? And so right now, the guidance is based on the data. We are going back to school full-time, 5 days a week. Every single student in the state of Connecticut will be going back. And that's where we stand. And now I think what's also true is that that plan is a moving document in terms of if the data changes with regard to the virus, then we will change what we're doing for going back to school. So for those of you who watched the news conference, for those of you who read about this going on, I'm sure you've had a lot of feelings around it. There's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions and ideas about what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. And we're not really going to get into any of that here because that's not our purpose. But I think what I want to do is take us back to this idea of psychological flexibility that we talked about a couple weeks ago, and bring it back to this guidance and where we can go from here. So we know now that our kids are going back to school full-time in the fall. And so I did just kind of a quick little shot of our flexibility, if a psychological flexibility chart from last week. And if you look over, here's our values over here. And our values that we all determined were our values, a couple of them, I picked kind of a couple of examples, are to be safe and to be educated and current on what's happening. So those are our values. But what gets in the way of that are some of these fears, some of these, should I do this? Should I not do this? Is this accurate? Is this not accurate? What you said yesterday is not what you're saying today. So those are the things that are kind of getting in the way of our values. And so what do we do in response to that? Well, oftentimes we freeze. We don't do anything. We don't take our kids out. We don't read the news. We don't look at what's going on. We don't look at the guidance. We avoid, same kind of thing. And sometimes we go into this, we talked a couple weeks ago about this internet rabbit hole where you could find a lot of information that may be inaccurate, or you could find a lot of information that's going to scare you further and really exacerbate your freezing and avoidance behaviors, right? So with that, what are our committed actions? And so when we got together and we talked about, okay, if we're going to improve our psychological flexibility and we recognize what our values are with regard to going back to school in the fall, if this is what we're talking about, what is our committed action going to be there? And so again, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, we want to stay current and stay educated. So we want to be continual learners, always learning, always acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, we don't know all the information, and that we really need to look at all different perspectives, look at all different ways of thinking, and try to determine what is best and what is the most true thing for us to do. We also, for a committed action, strategizing baby steps for whatever it is what we're going to do. We're going to set a plan to build up whatever action we're going to take. And then I think this number 3 is really the big one that we're getting at today, is review these guidelines with an open mind. So right now we don't have a lot of information in terms of the details of these guidelines. But all we know is that there's information out there that we are going back, and more information is going to come back out to us, maybe from our individual school districts, maybe from the state. And so we really need to be committed to reviewing them with an open mind so that we can really keep to our values of staying safe and staying educated. So when we're trying to, thinking about our values and our committed actions, with this guidance that we don't have a lot of details about right now, what can we talk about? What do we want to talk about that will ensure that we're making movement on our committed action, right? That we're doing something. And one thing that we know is not going away at this point or anytime soon is the idea that we should all be wearing masks in order to keep ourselves safe and in order for us to stay safe, everybody should be wearing masks. Now that's kind of a loaded one, right? Because that's tough. Some kids struggle with wearing masks. Some kids don't understand why they should be wearing masks. Some adults don't want to wear masks. I know for one, after a while, it gets pretty difficult, and I've got to really work on myself with wearing a mask if I have to wear it for long periods of time. So what we thought we would do is just, we came up with a few questions that we had, or just some ideas about masks that we want to share with everybody and talk about some different strategies or some different ways to think about it or look at the issue of wearing masks. We're also going to post some strategies, strategies that we found, that we read from the internet, from good resources that we think would be helpful for people who are interested in either learning more about different tips that they can use for helping to wear masks, or different social stories to utilize also. So let's just get started with a couple of these questions or topics. So Katie, say you don't have a mask for your kid yet, for your child, or even for yourself. Maybe you have completely isolated, you've quarantined, you have not gone out yet. Where do you get a mask, and what do you need to know about obtaining masks?
Okay, so I've had a lot of difficulty with this for myself. So I feel like they're everywhere. There are masks everywhere. There's not really a problem with the fit. Like I brought this is one I got at a random boutique. I got a 6-pack for like $15. So you just pop it on. Fits fine. Like I've had no trouble with fit with the adult masks. With my daughters, I've had a lot more trouble because the ear holes are too big, so they keep on slipping down from their ears. So I did find 2 different solutions, both on Amazon, and both that are working relatively well for my kids. This is not just a cute little scarf. What I bought is, it's called a neck gaiter, and I got this for my 5-year-old, and this fits her better than a regular mask. You just slip it up, and it stays up like this as long as I don't stretch it out on her too much. And then she could easily pull it down when she doesn't want it. She doesn't lose it when she takes a mask break, and it just kind of.
That I like. That's good, because it just, How is the breathability with that, Katie? Like, is it really
It's breathable and it's see-through. So she actually got frustrated with it dipping down a little bit in her first Costco trip, that she pulled it up over her whole head and looked like she was wearing a giant sock. And she was able to see through absolutely fine. I'm not going to do that. So, and as a bonus, that someday if masks are gone, she also likes to wear it as a headband. So
you're not going to model that for us? You're not going to show us what that?
I will show you what it looks like. So it's, cute little
Very
headband.
nice.
I'm on board.
It's multi-purpose.
I'm actually going to try those, because I like the fact that, because I keep telling my kids they have to have pockets, so that if they're in a place, if they're taking the mask off, they need a place to put them, because otherwise it's going to be gone.
Well, and that's to your point, Katie, like we're losing them already, and we haven't gone anywhere really. I mean, so if my kids can't come home with the sweatshirt they left in the morning with, how do they come home with the mask that they left in the morning with? So I really like that option.
Yeah, so you either have a scarf or a headband when you can take your mask break. So we have not lost these yet. The other solution, so I got this cute one on Amazon for my daughters. My 7-year-old, or oh my gosh, she's 8. My 8-year-old, this fits her fine, but my 5-year-old, it does not. So I found these. You can see this is just a little connector. So instead of having it clip onto the back of her ears, there are all these little notches, and there's 3 different sizes. You stick this on, and it goes on the back of her head.
Do you know what it's called, this contraption? Like, does it have a name?
I'm sure it does. I'll look it up when
we'll put it up. We'll post it.
We'll post it. But this actually stays on really nice and tight, and it doesn't annoy her.
Yeah.
I know behind the ear is bothersome. So they're everywhere. And what I would say, like, it costs a little bit of extra money, but I think the trial and error is that you do have to do. It's unfortunate. But I would, for some kids, I think the neck gaiters are definitely more comfortable because they're not constantly slipping down, and they're from what I've seen, they're more breathable than some of these other options.
And I've noticed that in the beginning, if you were trying to get a mask, it was nearly impossible. Yeah. Now you can get disposable masks anywhere, and a lot of places are selling different kinds of masks. What I will say, I don't know if you guys have found this, but I have found this, is that there are a lot of places who are charging a whole lot of money for masks.
Yeah.
And it is so unnecessary. So really looking around to see where, particularly if you're looking for kids masks.
Although I have to say, for the disposable masks, those seem to be reasonable again. I had to go to Staples yesterday, and they had face shields and disposable masks. I don't remember the cost, but it was relatively cheap for both of those. So those are pretty widespread.
And I think early on, I was able to find the adult masks. So we were like sewing little stitches in the ear loops to get them, to your point, to stay on. But now, you know, it seems that you're able to find the kids' masks a little easier. Disney's even got them now.
So it's just a matter of getting something that's gonna work.
Right.
That you're gonna have the highest likelihood that your child is going to keep it on.
Right.
And that's the biggest piece. So to that, how do I motivate my kids to wear masks? So now it's okay, we got these masks, or we're going to buy these masks. We tell our kids, you know, we got to wear these masks. How do I motivate my kid to wear a mask? Michelle, what say you?
Yeah, I think, so we've gotten some masks on Etsy, and there you can kind of pick out like really kind of cute, funky styles. They have a ton of them now. I think in the beginning it was kind of hard to find, and they were taking a really long time to ship. But now, I mean, you type in, you know, I know Chrissy was saying Disney masks before, you can just find whatever kind of print you want. And so I think offering choices to kids, you know, kind of bringing them on Etsy or another website and just saying, you know, let's pick out a cool, funky style together. You know, Katie, you have a cat one on there. So just offering them kind of that choice. Okay, which one do you want to pick out? Do you like one of the cats, or do you like the Disney characters? And you can kind of make it an accessory. I can just show you ones that we've gotten on Etsy. We just have like a regular pink one from Etsy. And then we also have some floral ones too that we've gotten that are relatively cheap. These are adult masks, but these companies make kids masks too. And then this one is kind of just a different shape, and it just like covers your nose too. But they all have cool designs. So something else you can do is kind of do like a little mask show off party. I think I've heard some people do that too. So getting on Zoom, or, you know, even in a socially distant way, kind of seeing friends and showing off your mask that way. You know, look what I have on my mask. I have these characters, or that could be a really fun way to getting them excited about wearing masks.
It's interesting because my daughter, who's going to start middle school in the fall, and her biggest thing is I have to start middle school wearing a mask. People aren't going to know what I look like. People aren't going to know who I am. So almost if you treat it like an accessory, it's kind of, you know, it's part of your outfit, or it's part of who you are. And has anybody heard of these kind of clear masks that would serve the same purpose, but they're clear, like potentially to use for, you know, if it's a little bit more, if it's harder for kids to see other people wearing a mask, or if you know, just want to have something that's see-through, or if you want to be able to read lips or something like that. I don't know much about those, but that might be something that comes out a little bit more.
We were talking about that too, because, you know, for our speech and language pathologists, it's very helpful if the students can see their mouths moving, if they're trying to model some formation of their lips.
Right.
I think they'll come out more, but I think it's going to be split. I think a lot of kids, to Michelle's point, it's their personality is going to come out in masks.
Absolutely. And I can think of, I'm thinking of a few kids in particular who I think already like to do things like dress up as Spider-Man or whatever, like things like that. I'm like, you could get that kid a Spider-Man mask, like be all set.
We're good. Yeah.
Finding those things that are like really fun and meaningful to kids is a big step. And
it's funny too, because the other day I wore like a floral mask, and I just happened to have little flowers on my shirt that I was wearing, and my sisters were like, oh, you're matching, your mask and your shirt are matching. So that's kind of something that you were talking about too, like incorporating into your outfit. And I was like, oh yeah, that's something that you can start thinking about, is, you know, how can you match your mask to your outfit, and maybe making it motivating.
That sounds like a lot of work.
For
I don't know
us.
if I could ever be that trendy. If I'm going to do that, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to get a black mask and a white mask, and that's it. It goes with everything.
I think we're just trying to normalize something that doesn't feel normal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think for us, it's easier because we've all been going out a little bit as adults because we have to, or some of us are back to work, but the kids haven't. So I think we have to try to find a way to normalize it for the kids. You know, one of the examples
Absolutely.
was to dress up your stuffed animals or your favorite characters at home, or to like draw a picture of Spider-Man wearing a mask. I mean, you could find them online now too. I think it's just kind of that initial exposure before you even ask your kids to put the masks on even.
mhm.
Right. Well, that's a whole big piece of it too. I mean, that's a whole other side of it, is how do you orient kids to wearing a mask if they're not used or if they haven't worn one. I also think that, you know, I know for my kids going out into the community at first, they would wear the mask, but it was scary for them because they were afraid to see other people wearing a mask. So I also wonder that if, you know, if as adults, we jump on board with these cool kinds of masks, it's going to make it less scary, and it is going to normalize it. So I think what we model as adults with regard to wearing masks is going to have a really huge impact on how our kids respond to wearing masks.
And I think
Absolutely.
like other things we've talked about, you know, the ages of the students or the, you know, our own children factor in. So they, depending on where they are developmentally, they have different concerns or different feelings around it. You know, my 17-year-old has already clearly said, I'm not wearing a mask to school for 6 hours. It's just not happening. And I'm like, but it has to, you know, and then even with what motivates them. So, you know, I have this funky, fun tie-dye kinds of things for our little guy. The older kids are like, oh my gosh, do not buy me anything that has any kind of design or just plain colors. Like, what are you thinking, lady? You know, so
Yeah.
you know, think about those things. So just trying to meet them where they're at, I think is important.
Yeah.
But I think that idea of normalization is really important too. And I actually wonder how kids will, like, what, especially like at that adolescent age, as they go back to school and as they get used to it and as it becomes like a normal thing, if it'll just become like another thing that you have to do.
Right.
Right.
With time.
Or, yeah. So I think it's just this initial stage where it still feels weird and uncomfortable, right? Like if you're not used to it, it's definitely something for me. I'm still getting used to the idea of going out and being in the world wearing a mask. But I think the more you do it and the more you get used to it, the easier it'll be.
Well, I this weekend ran into somebody that I know and haven't seen, and my initial reaction was to go hug and like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that. But you don't, it's just so automatic.
Mm-hmm.
So wearing a mask is what needs to become automatic, whether we like it or not, right?
Right. Well, and it will, like anything else, right? The more you do it, the more habit forming it becomes.
Right.
And so, you know, we talked already a little bit about this, Chrissy, but, you know, what if you've got kids who are afraid to go out? So we talked a little bit about, you know, we as adults have to model behaviors too, but like, what do you do if, okay, we've got this cute, funky mask and they're, you know, really excited about the mask, but they're not all that excited to go out into the, you know, my daughter went to an outdoor birthday party over the weekend. It was all outdoors, very small group of kids. And she came back home and she said, I put my mask on. She said, I didn't feel comfortable and I put my mask on. And I was so proud of her that she kind of took that. None of the other kids did, but it was just how she felt. She felt like she wanted to wear the mask. She felt uncomfortable. Whether she wore it the whole time, I don't know. But I worry that those kinds of experiences too will make it a little bit, make her less likely to want to go out the next time. So how do we get them to feel comfortable going out?
That's a really good question, because I think that many people, you know, myself included, we did make the decision to just stay in for a really long time. We didn't go to the stores. And when we did start to go out a little bit, it was the adults weren't ready to bring the kids. So, you know, I think that reinforces a little bit of anxiety in them around the concerns for safety. So, you know, unknowingly and with good intention, I reinforced for my kids that we needed to stay home. And, you know, again, going back to where they are developmentally, it may have been, okay, I need to scare this teenage boy because he's not going to listen to me. So I need to make sure that he's aware this is very serious. But now on the other end of it, did I reinforce a little bit of an anxiety? So now trying to get kids out, I think at any stage, my recommendation would be, you know, start small. Maybe it's you take a walk around your block. Maybe it's you, you know, you maybe go to a comfortable place that they were comfortable prior to closing, where you might not see a lot of people. I just think starting small and then building on those small successes is going to be really important. It can't just be jumping right back into being out in restaurants and being out in crowded stores. We need to take our time and respect that. And again, with the balance, I struggle myself with not making them so anxious that they don't want to go, but then also making them aware that this still is serious and they have to take these precautions. And how do you do that with kids when we struggle with that?
Well, and going back to what is our committed action is to stay educated and to strategize the baby steps. And I think I go back to that a lot with my own kids in terms of, okay, I just read a story. Now I'm feeling a little bit more nervous about this. Go anywhere. And that I have to take a step back and say, what am I putting out there? You know, and strategizing those baby steps to continue doing things to, you know, is getting them out, getting them acclimated, wearing the masks, knowing that they wear the mask, they still have to wash their hands and do all of those things, but it is okay to be out. It is okay to be out.
But I think on the flip side, the tricky part is, so you had your daughter who wanted to wear a mask because she felt uncomfortable. My daughter was in a similar situation and I wanted her to wear the mask, but I was alone in that. I was the only parent, one of two parents who were wearing masks at a situation that was outside, but the kids were not 6 feet apart. I wanted her to wear a mask, but it also then made me second guess, maybe we won't be going to outings like that if the rest of the world isn't on suit with kind of maintaining some of the guidelines. It's a really tough balance.
It is, and you have to do what's best and with what you feel comfortable with, and that may not be what's comfortable for me, may not be what's comfortable for everybody else. And really, I mean, I don't care how old you are, peer pressure is a real thing, and sometimes it's hard if you see everybody else not wearing a mask. You're like, ugh, do I need to be wearing a mask? And then, oh well, what are people going to think of me if I'm wearing a mask and they're not? Are they going to think something weird? And really, you know, it's you have to be comfortable. You have to be comfortable with it too. You know that if you wear a mask, you are protecting and supporting other people, and you are doing your part.
And I think, Katie, because that is interesting, right? Because then, you know, you might get into like a philosophical issue with somebody that you care about and you don't want to go there. But I think that what I'm seeing is that like the businesses are being really good about adhering to the guidance. And I understand why, right? They want to stay open. So they're going to follow the guidelines, you know, to keep us in a safe place so that they can continue to keep their businesses open. So maybe that's where you take your kids to a place where you know that that rule is being enforced rather than some backyard.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I think if we, if we're trying to model that too, having, you know, that normalizing and kind of excitement about wearing the mask to our kids, and we can kind of show them we're excited about wearing our masks and we have different colors or whatever, and they can kind of see, you know, we're modeling that for them, so they can kind of see our behavior about wearing the masks, and maybe they'll follow that behavior as well.
Yeah, and that's actually exactly what I was gonna say. But I think even more specifically than that, I think what you can do is, like, if your kids haven't seen you wear a mask before, you can model that for them too. Or like as you're going out, you can make show them like, so I'm gonna put my mask on because I'm going to XYZ place. And again, that gets back to the idea of normalizing it. And I think reducing our anxiety around it, but and their anxiety as well. Because again, I think the whole mask wearing thing is, I think it's still anxiety provoking for lots of us.
You know, Lisa, that's a really I was just going to say, I think it's a really good strategy that you just said about naming it when you're doing it. So we talk about modeling, but I think that's an important step. And I haven't done that. I'm going to try that. But saying like, I'm going to put my mask on because I'm going here.
Yeah.
And I should really put my mask on because I'm going here. Whether they're coming with me or not, them knowing that, you know what, I'm bringing my mask and I'm going to wear it the whole time that I'm at this place.
Yeah.
Just so that they know that. I think that's a great strategy to use. I'm sorry, Chrissy, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to say that someone had commented, just illustrating like positive media stories, or, you know, looking at things where maybe somebody that one of us looks up to, or a child looks up to, wearing their mask, or highlighting happy moments. Like, thank you, Michael, for this comment. So, you know, a wedding, and the people at the wedding wearing masks, and that even these happy moments can be, you know, shown to our kids that, you know, we're still living.
We can still do the good things, the fun things, while being safe and wearing a mask.
I just wanted to mention that because I thought that was a great comment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I want to get to one or two other points before we finish up here. Again, this is one of those topics where there's, you know, we fully recognize that we're talking about some issues surrounding masks, and we're not reaching all of you. We're not reaching all of your concerns in terms of what it's like for you as a parent, as someone who, either for yourself or someone who has kids or someone who works with kids, what those different trials and tribulations would be for wearing masks. We do understand that. So we're just scraping the surface right now. But I do want to talk a little bit about this idea of now we have a mask, they're tolerating wearing the mask for a few minutes. How do we work that up? How do we get kids to keep a mask on for a longer period of time? And then maybe, you know, knowing that if a child is going to, so say we have to wear masks at school during the school day. Well, how do we teach kids to advocate for themselves to request a break from the mask? Because let's face it, we're all going to, teachers too, we're all going to need a break for a mask. So how do we A, get them to tolerate it? And B, how do we teach them to advocate for themselves in terms of whether or not they need a break, and how do they do that? Lisa, what do you think?
Well, a couple things. So I think one, in terms of tolerating the mask wearing, I would look at kind of where your child is. So like if they're only tolerating mask wearing for very short periods of time, you don't then want to jump from like 10 minutes to 6 hours, because that's just not realistic. So if you have a student, for example, or a child who can tolerate a mask or is able to do it for like a half an hour, then maybe set up something fun that's like a little bit longer than that, like a play date or something that they're going to enjoy, and have them wear the mask for that period of time. So again, you're not going to jump right from like 30 minutes to 6 hours, but just something that they want to do, that they're looking forward to. And again, you can model that strategy for them too. So if it's a play date sort of a situation, you can be there with your mask on, and assuming that the other kids are wearing their masks too, so that it normalizes it, and then you can extend that time out a little bit more. I think for students who really have an aversion to mask wearing, or who might have some kind of things that might get in the way of them wearing masks, we're not going to go into detail about this right now, but there are ways that you can set up kind of more strict protocols for expanding that time. So if you're really looking at someone who's going from like a minute, and you want to extend it out to 2 minutes, and then to 4 minutes, and then to however long, there are ways that you can do that, you know, set those parameters and use some sort of reinforcement so that they are able to tolerate that out more. And that's something that if you have a student who falls into that category, and they are a special education student, I would imagine that as we go back to school, the educators would work with you on that, because it's, again, something that we're going to need to do. And sort of that vein, in terms of taking breaks from mask wearing, I think a couple of things. I think for us as educators, that's definitely something that's going to be on my mind in terms of how are we working that into the schedule? Like, how are we making sure that kids and staff are getting a break from wearing a mask all day long, because it is a long period of time to do it. So figuring out where are appropriate areas to do that. So is that the bathroom? Is there somewhere that they can go when they're outside? I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but figuring that out, and then teaching the same way that we teach kids to like let us know when they have to use the bathroom. You know, like if it's a hand signal, if it's a verbal request, if it's whatever, just for them to be able to let us know, like, I really need a break from this right now. And again, I think that's going to come with time. And as much as it feels weird to say to, or it might feel weird initially to say to a teacher, like, I need a break from my mask, kids ask us to get a drink of water, to the bathroom, to do all sorts of things all day long. And that feels very normal. So I think that will get to a point where that will feel normal as well.
And I think that, you know, we have to, as the adults and the parents, the educators, realize that this isn't going to be perfect, to your point, to start off. Like this is going to be a struggle for a lot of kids. We were laughing, there's this great TikTok video of a teacher showing all the different things that little elementary kids are going to do with their masks. It's hilarious. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. But as much as it's hilarious, it's realistic. I mean, these are they're children we're talking about here. So it isn't going to be perfect to start. And I do think that for those kids who parents are struggling already for, just like you said, a 5-minute quick trip, I would really recommend, you know, that you start trying to practice now to increase those times, because, you know, 2 months will go by so fast, and
Starting now is important.
Our expectation can't be 5 minutes to 6 hours, you know, overnight. It's going to be hard.
Yeah. And we will be posting some resources with regard to slowly increasing the use of a mask and tolerating the mask. So there's going to be some resources for you after this posted. Also, for next week, we're going to continue this conversation, but we really want to hear from some folks who are having some questions about either tolerating masks, increasing the use of masks, how to take a mask break, how to work on this over the summer to get kids ready to go back to school. But we'd really love to have some questions and specifics, issues that people are having or concerns that they have, so that we can address those and maybe present some good resources or supports for you guys next week. So if you can, send us a message at info@ippi.org, or put it in the comments under this video, and we will hopefully be able to get you some strategies for next week as well. So we'll be continuing this conversation and looking at other strategies moving on through the summer. So that is it for us for Coffee Talk this morning. We look forward to hearing from many of you and seeing you all next week. Thank you.